of November 14th, 2019 is now in session. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the October 24th, 2019 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Get an aye from you, Karen? On the minutes, yeah.
Abstain.
Well, we don't have the.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait.
Okay, so.
I'll vote in favor.
Yeah, okay. Is that okay? Can she?
She didn't attend, so.
Okay, so or the resolution
She didn't attend,
either, so we're gonna put those both off, and we're gonna jump into our our cases. Okay, so the board will now conduct the public hearings on today's agenda. There are two today. First, the applicant or the applicant's representative will state the reasons for the requested variance and present any material or documentation which is to be considered regarding the proposal. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then persons who wish to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or a representative will be given the option to make any closing arguments or comments to the board. Following the public hearings this afternoon, the board may make a decision on each application heard. The board may also decide to hold its decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record, except for information that the board may request. That information will be available for public review at the zoning office and City Hall Commons. Staff will now introduce the first application.
Good afternoon. Today's first public hearing is V1749M1. It's an area variance for required parking at 200 to 206 South Geddes Street for a mixed-use building, the Gear Factory. Rick DeStito, Syracuse Vibrant Spaces, is the owner applicant, and the zoning district is Industrial Class A. You want to come up here?
Hi, you need to state your name and your address, please.
Sure. Anthony Katsimatidis, I'm the architect, and my address is 4634 Ridge Road in Cazenovia. I am the architect for Rick DeStito and the Vibrant Syracuse Spaces. The third floor is what's under question for pretty much filling in vacant space. It's been an ongoing issue with the building because of the shape of the building. It takes up the entire property line except for one side, which is an easement that's split between the two properties. So there's really, I think if you really wanted to squeeze in 2 or 4 cars on the lot, you can probably do that. But over the years, every time we try to include some more businesses or residential upstairs, we have to do variance because Rick does control a parking lot across the street, which is part of this project. However, that has already been sort of quote-unquote met its quota for the rest of the project that we've, up until now, I think there's 6 floors total and we've done 4. So this is the 5th floor that we're filling in with commercial spaces. So there's really no other option other than to continue to look at variances or some other creative ways to get the building back full in that neighborhood, which is, in Rick's kind of viewpoint, it's really that whole corner. He's kind of helping to really regenerate business and living opportunities in that area.
Can you tell us what on-street parking is like around the building?
I've had to park on the street. It's kind of tough around there. There's some parking lots in the back. Unofficially, there is, the neighbors allow Rick to park the cars from his neighborhood back there, and that's kind of what they do across the street. How many? I think there's 68 parking spaces, and one of the things that's been evident to me when I visit the project is that the parking lots that Rick controls and the sort of neighborly gestures of the neighbors allow him to park back there are really about halfway full any time I've ever been there, including the evenings. And so it doesn't seem like parking is an issue. And one of the things that I think may play into this, and I haven't really been following up, but I know that the rezone I met with Owen Kearney probably the last time about 2 years ago, and they were looking at making that parking, I'm not quite sure where they're heading with that, but in the future that there won't be parking requirements in that neighborhood, I think. I'm not sure that's...
I think they're reducing the parking requirements, but not eliminating them.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So the idea that really, I mean, if you think about the whole neighborhood and how Geddes Street and Fayette Street, yeah, there's really tough to park around there, but because of all of the parking lots that are around there and the way the community seems to share the parking lots, it doesn't ever seem to be a problem.
Is there an issue with the parking in front of the old Save-A-Lot store in that parking lot? You know, next to the hardware store?
Yeah, I think Rick may be able to answer that. You want to come up? Yeah, I think he can answer.
Your name and address.
My name is Rick DeStito at 721 Otisco Street, owner of the building. The Save-A-Lot parking lot and 1153 West Fayette. I have good relationships with both of those property owners, and if I need it, they're like, yeah, sure, we got parking for you. I haven't gotten there yet. The building has been...
So they're not going to tow you away if one of your people parks there?
No, and then the other thing that we've done since last time around is that the shared alleyway that runs in between my building and the hardware store, all the way around the brick building next door to me. That has been that's all been improved, and there's about 22 like unofficial parking spots there. But also, you know, the way that we've headed with the city, we want to increase biking, walking, mixed-use buildings, so you have a day crowd and a night crowd. And I think it's been working out I think it's one of the, it's my place, but I'd like to say it's probably one of the best examples I've seen in the city, where everything is just steady, whether it's during the day or at night. There never seems to be parking issues, and there's a lot of people that don't even own cars that have been staying at the building. There's people that work at the building and live at the building now, and people still take buses, they Uber, and they've since then also a bike share has been installed across the street. All the things that we talked about before last time we were here, people at the building are actually doing all of those, the variety of those things. So it's like, it's like, cool.
So the apartments would be people more likely to park at night. Offices would be more likely people to park in the day. What's the balance like in the building of daytime, nighttime parking?
It looks the same. If you look over at the Rock West building, you'll always notice that their parking lots there's hundreds of cars in their parking lot during the day, and then there's like 10 cars at night. Mine is pretty steady. It's just if you were there during the day, if you were there at night, it looks the same.
How many people are in apartments that have cars in your building, would you guess?
About 2/3.
2/3 of the apartments? How many people?
30 apartments.
30 apartments?
Yeah.
So 20 cars at night?
20 or less. I mean, like I counted last night, and there was like...
I haven't seen that many.
Yeah, I counted last night, and there was like 10 open spots.
And how many office workers do you expect then?
For the new third floor?
For total, if we approve this, let's say.
About 15.
15 office workers.
Yeah.
So fewer than people who live there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. But we only built that ring around the edges, so it's only 15 offices. And most of these offices are for young, up-and-coming entrepreneurs. I mean, they're people that, like more like I don't want to call it a call works kind of thing, but I guess, they'll be there for maybe a year, 6 months, 2 years, who knows. It's not like, he's not looking for, 5-year leases or anything like that.
Kind of an incubator sort of.
Kind of, sort of, yeah, but not really. But in a way, it's kind of addressing changing the culture, changing dynamics of urban living. People are, the younger generation takes public transportation more than some of us older guys, and so they really do reduce the car count considerably. It's pretty, and I've been at the building many times when there's, going there for just, looking over the project and stuff, and I noticed that it's a very young crowd there. I think it was-
The bottom is devoted to the arts, right? I mean,
Yeah.
recording studios, are there art studios?
Basement, yeah, it's recording studios.
Yeah, those, music rehearsal studios, but they're never there, they're never there at the same time.
But we're being asked to waive 42 spaces out of 68? Is that the way I read it?
Let's ask staff.
Is that right?
Yes.
And how many have already been waived? A bunch.
Previously, well,
Looks like 30 spaces.
30 spaces for 30 dwelling units, and there wasn't a full breakdown of the parking for B17.
Do you have 26 spaces?
Basically, there was 26 spaces available as there is now, and there were 30 dwelling units. And then PR, one of the project site reviews that was done for the building had noted that there was a need for, I think, 10 spaces for manufacturing. And at the time, he had a tenant in there that was had a studio that was working with materials and creating sculptures or something
Yeah,
similar.
He was there for about a year, and then he...
Yeah.
And so we had to identify a use for it, and we used
That's gone.
manufacturing. And so I think based on that, that was like the first thing zoning review. We thought that maybe there would be 10 spaces required. Then he added the apartments, which were 30, so that was 34, and then there were 29 spaces provided. And now those uses are shifting to office space, so probably, an additional, just based on those calculations, another, say, 20 spaces or so.
In addition to what we're being asked for today.
Yeah.
So, can I just add to that? That's from the last time I was here, right?
Yeah.
Right. Since the last time I was here, legally it gets complicated, but in the shared alleyway, it's ownership is shared, right down the middle by my property, the hardware, and the other building next to us. So that's kind of like all shared parking, but not a lot of. The only time the hardware ever parks out there is like 4 of their employees park out there during the day, and then it's all open at night. So since the last time I was here, there's like 22 new spots in that alleyway that weren't included in the last.
Should they be included in the calculus that we're looking at today then?
Well, again, it gets complicated because of the shared ownership
You
and.
can, but the logistics from discussions with the zoning is that we'd have to then ask the neighbors to identify what their parking needs are and then include them and
Okay.
legally go through the process.
So we can't
It makes
technically
sense to do that.
You have a parking lot that is devoted to your use. How often is that full?
Never.
Never, no. Maybe half at any given time I've seen.
Maybe half at any given time?
Yeah, I'd say.
What is the most you've ever seen half, or?
Yeah, when I've been there, I very rarely see it full, maybe more than half sometimes, but mostly it's hardly ever full.
So-
I've never seen it full.
Is your contention then that you have enough parking?
I think, and if given any time you drive by there, I think a lot across the street, which is controlled by Rick, and
Yeah.
within.
That's not including the lot across the street?
Yeah, it's part of, because it was part of the application from one of the first studios, I think it was, the music studios downstairs. So, given the situation street parking is pretty much minimum to nothing, but the off-street parking is more than sufficient. I think you can, double the size of this building and you'd be okay, to be frankly. I mean, logistically speaking.
Are you asking to double the size of the building?
Oh, sure, why not? No.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody here, I don't see anybody, is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody here who wishes to speak against the application? Hearing none, we'll go on to our next case.
Okay, our next public hearing for V 1927 is an area variance for required side and rear yard located at 813 Whitton Street to establish a single-family dwelling owned by James C. Lloyd. Zoning district is residential class A1.
Good afternoon. My name is James Lloyd. I reside at 8836 Daylight Drive in Liverpool, New York. Brief summary of what we have here. My wife and I purchased a property on Winton Street, which is comprised apparently of 2 lots. It was owned by a gentleman. He purchased his grandmother's house, legally applied and built a 2-car garage on the adjacent lot with illegal setbacks at the time. Under some demise or fire perhaps, the residential house came down. So right now we are the owners of a garage that's illegal. You can't have a garage in the city of Syracuse. Unbeknownst to us, under that pretense, we had applied to zoning and permits to be able to take the existing structure, leave it as it stands, remove the roof, add a second floor, which would be a dwelling, and put the roof back on. We're contractors by trade, so we have the ability to do that.
So, it's illegal because you can't have parking where there's not a residence too, is that right? What, is it right? Is it right that it's illegal? And in what sense?
Can't, I guess, from my check with zoning, you can't have a garage, simply just a garage in
Yeah.
the city of Syracuse. It wasn't that way. You took
The question's why. Yeah.
So parking is not a principal permitted use within a residential zoning district. So these lots are not combined. There's a lot next door that has a house on it. This lot only has a garage on it. And the proposal is to, instead of build a house detached from the existing garage, to build on top of the garage. Unfortunately, the yard requirements set forth in the zoning ordinance restrict the actual dwelling to be closer to the lot line than what is proposed for what a detached garage could have been.
So, is it okay if I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to get the big picture here. You purchased this in this year,
We purchased this probably 6 months ago.
and there are 2 lots, and one has a house and is just fine, and then there's a second lot.
One's empty.
Right,
One lot's empty.
One lot's empty.
There's the other lot. There are 2
Oh,
lots.
so it's an empty lot and a garage.
Right.
So tell me,
The
what
gentleman,
was your vision?
right, originally, we came across this on the MLS just the way that it is. According to backlog, as I say, the gentleman that owned it, a police officer in Syracuse, he purchased his grandmother's house, legally applied and built the garage with the correct setbacks for a garage on his adjacent lot,
And then ripped the house.
either by fire or tore it down, so now it's sitting, now we have a garage on a lot that was legally built at the time, and it just, for us, financially, would make sense for us to applicably just add to the second floor.
Well, that's what I'm asking. You bought this
We bought this,
as is.
as is.
Is it an investment?
It is, right, we're contractors by trade, and we would use it for our own use. Storage underneath and a loft apartment upstairs.
Who's going to stay in the loft?
We would stay in there because we live in Clay, but we work in Syracuse full-time.
Oh, I see. So you don't intend on renting this out?
Don't need to,
You're putting
no.
in what I've always called
Efficiency.
a Fonzie apartment. It's my.
Correct,
Yeah,
yes, I referred to that.
And it's going to be for your use.
Just for our use, right. And we,
I imagine you got this for a song. Like
$40,000, but it's existing for us. The
Full
investment-
album, okay. Good.
Yeah, it's been made there, so
Okay,
it's,
so I got the picture now. Thank you.
so I mean, addressing it with our architect through the city of Syracuse, he's addressed fire retardancy materials that need to be addressed there, egress windows applicable. We addressed personally both owners of either adjacent properties. They didn't seem to have an issue with it, and if applicable, it was to go through a construction phase, which would be very short, to build that out.
So you couldn't build a house next door to the garage because then the garage would still be illegal because it's on its own lot.
If we,
Yeah, you could re-subdivide it and combine the 2.
right, I think from what the blueprints are alluding to here, not knowing they were 2 lots at the time, that the blueprints, we should be in there, we'd be applying for a variance for the three sides, if you will. The only issue, I believe, is that the driveway is through the sidewalk. They would like to see that sidewalk continue across the driveway for issues for that.
I'm still not clear how you're going to, you said you'll stay there. You're not giving up your Liverpool.
No, but when,
I mean, it's not like you need a place to come to when you, because you live in New York City and you need a place to come to when you're in Syracuse. So how are you, is it going to be an office?
we can use the upstairs as an office, right?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
can they?
Has to be a dwelling unit.
Do they?
It would have to be a single-family dwelling.
correct, that's, I mean, it's, the blueprints allude to a bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom. That's what we're,
Not an office where you have workers coming in?
no, it's just my wife and I.
Did you ever think about, I just wonder, did you ever think about building a house on the vacant lot?
Yeah, we actually didn't find out till we came halfway through zoning that it was 2 lots. So, I mean, cost effectiveness at this point, I wouldn't say it's too, with the new setbacks that are probably there within that lot, it wouldn't be too big. So, cost effective, it wouldn't be, cost us very much just to use the existing plan that we have for the garage.
So it's less expensive to build?
Definitely, right. I mean, the roof structure itself can be removed. You're taking the plywood off, but the trusses are there. They can go right back on. We're just building a second floor on the exact same footprint.
Is there plumbing, electrical to the garage?
There's a site plan that they would bring originally where this gentleman had the house next door. The site plan alludes to letting the gas, sewer, and water come through there.
That's on a different lot, right?
The site plan actually has them on our same lot. Talked already to the water board, Niagara Mohawk, the National Grid, referencing the gas.
What do you do with the other lot if you build this?
Just grass. It's just grass. Still are. We don't have a need to build anything on there right now.
Would you be allowed to sell that for somebody to build on? You'd have to do a re-subdivision to do that?
It's already.
Well, it is its own lot.
Its own
Yeah.
lot.
Right.
So they could sell it, to have somebody build a single-family house on. I'm just.
Sell it to the neighbor.
Yeah, right.
Good. We just don't have a need for that.
Yeah.
As a garage, does this meet the setback requirements? It's only because it would be a residence that it does not?
Right, it's
Yeah.
an accessory structure.
As an accessory structure, it's okay. It's as a
Not
house.
the land use, but the setback.
Okay.
And I would add that the site plan failed to show an extension off the back on the left side of the building, towards the back. There's going to be a stairway that's going to serve as an egress to the second-story apartment.
A second stairway?
Yeah, well, they're not going to have, it's not going to have an internal stairway, right?
Right. By code, it can't have an internal stairway. It has to have an external one. But
So looking at page 56, I see the stairway beside the house. Is that
Correct.
what you're referring to?
Yes, but it's not shown on the site plan. So I just wanted to point that out, and I had mentioned that to the architect, and we didn't get an updated site plan.
Site plan on 54, page 54? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yeah.
But looking at the blueprints, it falls within the size of the particular lot that we're describing. And here again, I guess within inches or a foot, it would still applying for a variance to our own lot.
There'll be a sidewalk from the sidewalk up to your house?
There's a blacktop driveway right now to that garage, if you will.
So that would be the sidewalk. You'd walk up the driveway.
Correct.
The stairway, is that towards the front of the building or back of the building?
The stairway's on the left-hand side of the house. It would be
On the
facing.
front, right next to
You
the
would
garage?
enter from the front.
Because it looked like it was on the back of the house. I just,
I have the,
It looks like it's on the side. Page 56.
oh, okay.
we have some full blueprints if you want to review those.
Yeah, so it would be large enough. It'd almost be right at the front of the building. Not quite. So that stairway would set back about half a foot.
Correct.
You can try.
And then their whole front lawn is
Gotta look at the
tarred.
very bottoms of their readers.
Basically it. Yeah, we're just looking to say, they had not changed the footprint, just put a second floor on an existing structure.
Do you know the price differential between putting up a small house on the other lot and building?
The cost for us to do this addition that we're referring to is around $45,000. For us to break ground, foundation, substructure, the other one, $120,000, $130,000.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your consideration.
Sure. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Or anybody who wishes to speak against the application? Hearing none, those are our cases. I'm going to suggest that we go right to the cases and then deal with our extra stuff afterwards. So, Karen, this is how we work it. So we'll finish with the cases. It's Karen's first day anyway. And now we consider them and vote on them. There has to be a motion and a second and discussion, and then we vote on them. Yeah, I guess that's typical Robert's rules. So, B1749 M1 at 200-206 South Gettys. Is there a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, your rationale, please.
A change to the neighborhood, nothing is changing to the exterior of the building. There will be some more cars in the neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that could use a little more traffic, I think. That would be a benefit. Are there alternative solutions available so that a variance is not needed? We're seeing the city move towards new zoning that would have fewer requirements for parking, and I think this is consistent with that movement by the city and nationally to require fewer parking spots. The magnitude of the variance being requested is significant compared to what the zoning is now, but I don't think the impact on the neighborhood will be significant from what we hear about the parking capacity in the areas around the building. Will there be an adverse effect to the surrounding neighborhood if the variance is approved? I believe not. I think it's not going to be noticed, except that the building will be bringing more people and vibrance to the neighborhood. And is this a self-created difficulty? It's not. This building was built at a time when there was more people were getting around by bicycle and on foot and mass transit, and hopefully we're moving towards something more like that in the city now.
And if it stayed a factory, you'd need a whole lot, you would have many people there with the same parking situation.
And impacts as well. Okay, anybody else?
I agree.
Okay. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving the variance say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is unanimous. Second case, B1927 area variance, side and rear yard, 813 Winton Street. Is there a motion? Is there?
Well, unfortunately, I'll make a motion to deny.
Is there a second?
For the purpose of discussion, I'll second.
Okay. Rationale.
Well, because this was recently purchased this year, he knew what he was buying. He claims to be a contractor, so he should be more aware of the rules and even though the claim is that it will be used by the owner, we don't know if within 6 months whether after this apartment is made, whether the building will be sold, and which could bring down the character of the neighborhood to like over capacity for the, like more, I hate to say undesirables, but more of a detriment to the area.
You want to go through
The five on page 40. Page 40.
On page 40, will there be a change to the neighborhood, to the character of the neighborhood? I think so, yes. It's the property, the building itself is too close to the boundary lines. Are there alternate solutions available? Yes. The two properties that the applicant owns could be combined and they could put up a new structure. The magnitude of the variance is, it will be big because it'll look very out of place next to the other homes on the street. Will this be an adverse effect? I believe so. As I just stated, be creating a bad thing, and it's self-created because he knew what he was getting.
Okay.
I would agree, and I think self-created difficulty is the crux of the issue here. We so often hear people say, I bought this property and didn't realize the zoning wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do, and it is much better if people do due diligence before they buy. I think the better solution here would be to build another house on the vacant lot and re-subdivide the two together. I know that would be more expensive, but that's something that should have been considered before the property was purchased.
So when they build it, it's going to be up like that?
Yeah.
And overlooking all that? And anything else? Anybody have any comments? I guess I'm going to call the question, and the motion is to deny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the only thing else we have on our agenda is the calendar for next year. Very exciting proposition. I've asked if important holidays are made sure, and I was told yes, so I'm taking your word for it. And that's it. We're not meeting on New Year's Eve, so is there a motion to approve the calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.